Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, my guest is Brice Challamel, the VP of AI Products and Innovation at Moderna. Prior to Moderna, Brice worked at Google for 5 years as the transformation lead. He's also held roles at companies like L'Oreal and so much more. We're talking about the strategy behind AI at Moderna. We're talking about the industries that AI is set to disrupt, such as healthcare and pharma. And we talk about how to lead with AI as a key part of your strategy. Please enjoy Brice Challamel. Brice, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. Where are you calling in from today?
Hey, I'm calling from Cambridge in Massachusetts, and I'm so glad to be here. Hello, Blake.
Yes, it's so nice to meet you. You have such an interesting background, the focus on AI, you're in the pharmaceutical industry. Can you just tell us how you landed into this particular role and like the elevator pitch of your career story?
Of course, I began my career in customer-facing roles. I was at marketing in a consumer goods company called L'Oréal, French hallmark for cosmetics. And from there, I went into consulting at the Boston Consulting Group and discovered that the main success factors of consumer brands, customer brands, relied on methodologies that were very universal about creativity, innovation, change management, and always bringing a fresh perspective to what you have to offer customers. And that became a topic of passion for me. So I'm a published author of 4 books on the topic, which I wrote in French. So you'll never know how bad they are, but I did write them. And at that time, I built my own consultancy, and it was the golden age of tech, the early golden age of tech. And my customers were Microsoft, Facebook, Google, and Google especially was very fond of bringing technology to users, but also to organizations, governments, school systems, hospitals, companies, under the guise of change management, of innovation and transformation. And that became a core component of my offer to the point that I joined Google to become their global transformation lead in 2016 and held that role for about 5 years, which is how I met the leadership team of Moderna. This was a couple of years before the COVID pandemic, and I was very, very impressed with their vision, with their ability to drive change, with their level of ambition. And if the cloud, right, the data centers, the computing power was the electricity of modern times that you distribute not through the electricity network, but through the internet, really. Then the question was, what is the radio? What is the fantastic use case of all this power that is world defining and is going to change our lives? And I thought mRNA, which is a pure AI topic, right? You cannot design mRNA therapies without AI. And the way that they're designing these new therapies for rare disease, for cancer, for pandemics, uh, this is the radio of artificial intelligence. This is the first and most inspiring use case. And so I wrote to the CEO, Stefan Bancel, and I proposed my services, which he accepted. And that's how I find myself very lucky and privileged to be at Moderna today and head of AI.
I see, I see. So you have this interest in, and for our audience that they're not familiar with that scientific process, you called it, and I apologize, I actually don't know much about that. It's mRNA. I don't know
Yes.
anything about it.
So the M stands for messenger, and the RNA is a part, an extraction, if you will, a copy of the DNA code of the cell that instructs what to do to the cell. It is read by this little factory called the ribosome, and the ribosome reads those copies, those prints of the DNA that are called messenger RNAs, and knows how to create a protein that we use to live. And this is really the core foundational mechanism of the human cells and every animal cell, really. And so we use to treat most disease from, I would say, the bloodstream, right? Taking pills or having, treating the symptoms. But now we know how to code one of those mRNAs and to inject it in the cell to give it the instructions, the message, hence the messenger, to create a protein. So let's take the example of a child who was born with a rare disease and does not create the right protein to metabolize ammonia. And then it accumulates in their blood and it becomes life-threatening. Uh, that protein, we can send an mRNA that will instruct the liver cells to code it and to create it. And then that
Yeah.
child, instead of doing liver transplant or dialysis, he can have a functional life again because we send the message to the cellular organization to produce that protein. Now, where does AI come in place? Is that there are more ways to do this messenger, to code one specific protein than there are atoms in the universe. Because nature has a lot of redundancies and a lot of ways to do things. And which of all the possibilities is the right one? And for this, we need artificial intelligence because most of those solutions would fail, but a handful of them would be very successful, maybe even more successful than the ones that nature has inherited from trial and error. And this is where AI makes a shining example of what it can achieve. So it was there from the beginning in the design of our products. And today we use it for a lot more things, which I think we're going to be talking about today, uh, including productivity, including meeting customers. It's a very, very inspiring moment in time to be considering all those technologies and what they can achieve.
Okay, so we have a lot of ground to cover today. It's so cool to have an AI expert on the show, but also a scientist. I am fascinated by scientists. My son is going to be a scientist. He's only 4 years old, but I know this is his career path. But before we get into science or AI and all of that, let's like level set on customer experience. What does customer experience mean to you at Moderna? How do you look at it?
So this is a great question. Thank you so much for asking. First, I want to say that I believe that artificial intelligence is one of those rare technologies that is the foundation for other technologies and other innovations. So this is not new. I just gave an analogy to electricity. And typically electricity, even though it was more than 100 years ago, when it arrived, it helped on one side to make companies more efficient. If only this, you could work at night because you had light. And it also helped to trigger new customer requests. People wanted fridges and TVs and radios and telephones. And when one foundational innovation at the same time boosts the demand for new products and services and boosts the productivity of organizations to deliver products and services, you know that you are in a very special place in terms of economic cycles, right? It was also the case for computing. It made people more efficient, and it triggered a lot of demand for video games, for processors in your watches, for iPads, all these things. Was the case again for internet, right? And it's the case today for AI. So with artificial intelligence, people can do things much faster and with a better efficiency really and a better outcome. But also you start to see consumers, customers really asking for AI products. And if you go at the Consumer Electronics Show, I was the spokesperson for Moderna at CES 2025. I was surrounded by products, customer services who claimed AI to be one of their main features. It was extraordinary to be at this year's Consumer Electronics
I'm
Show.
sure.
And so when the same technology has such a profound impact on the people who work and the people who consume, which of course are always the same people, by the way, this is when you need to think of your customers in a more holistic way. So for me, every employee of Moderna is a customer of AI. And for me, every person out there who needs a vaccine or a treatment is a customer. Because we are with one of those foundational technologies that is supporting both sides of demand and offer, I think of customer holistically. And then all my reflexes from L'Oreal to Boston Consulting Group to being my CEO of my own company to today my job come together to tell me everyone is a customer.
When you say your customers are asking for AI products, could you give us an example of what they're asking for?
Well, I would say first, when I was at CES, I was seeing that everyone was interested. It would be with televisions, with drones, with robots. You see more and more domestic robotics. You see the arrival of artificial intelligence at the home with Alexa and the Google Assistant and Siri, and they're getting better and better. You see them in our phones. Now, every phone has at least 20 artificial intelligence services ranging from Google Maps helping you to find the shortest way from your home to your work, all the way to ChatGPT and all the things that it can do, and Midjourney to generate images. So I just observe that a lot of people have a lot of demand and are willing to pay money for AI products and services. And then for us, if I go back to that holistic perception of customers, I have people within Moderna, my internal customers, if you would, who would like, for instance, to create course curriculum and course content and assets to teach new ways of medicine in medical schools. And AI can help them do this faster and better. I have people in manufacturing who want to automate processes and instead of doing things manually, to do them in a more automated way. And AI can help them design this. And then I have people outside of the company who tell me that they have a loved one who has cancer, and my mom is a cancer survivor, so this is a topic that is very close to me. And they need to think about how to be the right caretaker for that person, how to think about the right words to say, how to think about the right menus to cook, how to think about the right way to be by that person's side. And sometimes we just lack the knowledge. We would need an expert 24/7 by our side to help us. And we don't have those many experts, but maybe AI can fill in the gap and be an assistant, if not a professor, in helping us deal with those kind of environments. And so this is why I think that both internally and externally, we're going to see a huge surge in the desire by customers to be on the receiving end of products and services that make them smarter and that give them information and knowledge and support that they wouldn't have otherwise.
I was recently at a conference and I was sitting with a chief people officer for a company in the US called Intermountain Health. And we were talking about how AI is being used in healthcare and that doctors now, in the past, they take notes on the patient in the short visit, and the doctor's back is to the patient, and they have to write down or type all these notes. And now with AI can just listen, obviously, to everything that is said and then take notes and transcribe so the doctor can be present and face the client. But not all doctors want this. Do you see there's going to be a hurdle in getting practitioners and workers in healthcare to want to use these AI tools? Or is there going to be some resistance? This episode is sponsored by Scale. Want to launch a promotion, but instead you're launching another IT ticket? Does expanding into a new market feel like building a tech startup? Sounds painful. Enterprise commerce shouldn't hurt, and with Scale, it doesn't. Scale is the flexible, scalable e commerce platform built to grow enterprise brands pain free. Don't just take our word for it. Brands like Harrods, Manchester United, and Snipes trust Scale to power their business. So why are you still suffering? So visit Scale today. That's SCAYLE. Yes, the Y is silent because you never have to ask why Scale isn't performing. Or find the link in the podcast description below.
Oh, this is so interesting because this is when we get to talk about change management and transformation.
Yeah.
So I think that every single doctor will end up using this because people are lazy. And this is a Darwinian advantage for us, the humans. We want to have the least effort for the best outcome.
Yes.
It's a fantastic evolutionary feature.
Yes.
And so as the technology gets better, as people get more familiar with it, they will all go to it. It's bound to happen. Now, the question is how fast and how safe is the journey from how we work today to how we will be working tomorrow for doctors? And this is where good change management starts to become important. right? Listening to them and how they are working and the tools they are using and what makes them successful, and making sure that we find the exact right ways to support them and the right ways to give them the tools and the words, because those tools, they produce speech, they produce language that are going to be helpful for them with their patients or with their teams, because they don't work alone. And so, as much as I think that everyone will end up using this, it doesn't mean we should just build the product and hope for the best,
Right.
right? There is a lot of work to be done to make sure that it is catered to them and that it progresses in a way that makes them feel safe, um, because they have life and death conversations with some of their patients, and to make them feel empowered. I think this is one more step in the way that we augment ourselves. Even what we're doing right now, Blake, having this distant conversation through cameras and microphones over the internet, recording it instantly. You probably use AI to edit those episodes, and then we stream them. Is extraordinary. 5 years
Mhm.
ago, it would have been hard. 10 years ago, it would have been impossible. And here we are, spreading knowledge at the speed of electronics and AI, really. And
Mhm.
so for the doctors, it's going to be the same thing, or so I expect. And what's interesting, and I want to leave you with that thought, in this conversation, is that you just described AI as an assistant, helping you take the notes and formalize them and give them to the patient. And of course, if the patient has a different language, they come from a foreign country, then you can translate it for them. If the patient has a unique condition, it can find more information. Like, there's a lot of value to that assistant. It's a fantastic assistant. But then it's also a great expert. It can actually help the doctor fine-tune their understanding of the situation and the diagnosis. So AI-assisted diagnosis is going to be huge for healthcare.
Yeah.
It's also a great coach. It can look back at the conversation and come back to the physician or the practitioner and say, hey, in that conversation, you said that and that sentence, which maybe were not very sensitive and might have been taken the wrong way by a patient. What do you think about it? And start coaching them in the way that the conversation went in their behavior. And then we come to the fourth bucket, and there's four of them, which is your creative partner. If that doctor wants to expand their business, if they want to think about learning a new skill, if they want to redesign the way that they welcome patients in their office, they can have a brainstorming with AI, which is actually pretty good at brainstorming. And so they're entering by, I would say, the south face of the Everest, really, this new journey, the which is the assistant, but then the expert, the coach, and the creative partner are also there for them. And I believe that most people will become teams of five: themselves, their assistant, their expert, their coach, and their creative partner.
Mhm. That's interesting. Outside of your role at Moderna, like as an objective thought leader, how do you see AI is going to disrupt pharma in general?
I think, and I hope, because this is not a spectator sport, it's something that we need to work on. So I'm going to also commit my energy to it. That AI can help, uh, for one, design new drugs, which is what we're doing at Moderna. And that seems like a given for me because we are doing it and it's already demonstrated its benefits. But also bring them faster to market, because the
Yeah.
time from the moment you design a drug to the moment that it reaches the patient is so essential.
It's usually like 8 years, right?
So it depends. In the case of the COVID vaccine, it was 9 months. That's as short as it gets. In something more traditional, let's say cancer therapy, it can be 5, 6, 8 years, you're right. In some cases, if the clinical trials are not what you hoped they would be, and you have to propose new products, new developments, new dosage, can go 10, 15 years. So some of those therapies, they were 20 years in the making, right, at the extreme range. So from 9 months to 20 years is the current field in pharma. And every month that passes is people who suffer or people who die. So we always feel at Moderna, we have 12 mindsets, which guide most of the things we do, and we establish them as our core values. And the number one of them, and they are in order, is act with urgency.
Hmm.
Because time is of the essence. Because on the other side of our activity, there are people who are suffering or dying.
Yeah.
And so let's take only that example. The ability, for instance, for AI to support the organization of the data that we get back from clinical trials and to organize the buckets of data, to extract some insights, and to propose a first round of knowledge based on data, right? We call this in the technical jargon of AI RAG, which means retrieval augmented generation. It retrieves
Right.
information from data and it augments the generation with this retrieval. It's a fantastic tool to accelerate the time that it takes between one phase and another of clinical trials and to compress that time, which is really on us, and to go faster from a phase one to a phase two to a phase three to a phase four. There are 4 phases in clinical trials. And that at the end, it accumulates and can end up being months or years sooner.
Let me just put a pin in that. Does that does that mean that you build the AI technology yourself, or do you have vendors you work with, and what does that look like?
Yes, so this is a great question. For the foundational AI models, for instance, the one that helps us to design the mRNA that is going to instruct your cell to produce the right protein, this is something that we design, and it is really the reason why we exist as a company, is those models. Then, for some of the models, for instance, that will help us improve safety procedures in manufacturing, we can use existing models and we can train them for our use case. This is called fine tuning. So we don't do the training, which is billions of dollars, but we would do the fine tuning. And then on much broader distributed use cases, for instance, note taking from the transcript of a meeting, then we buy. And we have a partnership today with OpenAI, which is a fantastic partnership, by the way. And I'm so grateful for it because in a lot of ways, we are similar types of companies. We are mostly researchers trying to do something extraordinary in an environment that is asking us a lot of questions and has a lot of scrutiny on how we operate and have every right to do so. And so we recognize each other, OpenAI and Moderna, in the ways that we work, in the ambitions that we have, in the challenges that we face, and we support each other. And so in this case, we have adopted ChatGPT Enterprise, which is the professional version of ChatGPT. And we have given it to every knowledge worker in the company. So if you are in a clean room and you don't have a laptop and you don't have an electronic device, then we are not going to give you ChatGPT Enterprise because you couldn't use it. But anyone who has a laptop at Moderna has an access to ChatGPT Enterprise and has AI working with them and for them.
Hmm.
We've been 2 years on that journey now. We started with our own product, and then we leapfrogged towards the new product that ChatGPT proposes. And I think we're one of the first companies in the world to have 100% adoption of the product for knowledge workers.
In considering that everyone is an open AI customer at your company, that everyone is using AI, as a manager and as a leader, does it change your expectations for how employees work and the way they work, what their work looks like? Does it change your expectations as a leader?
This is such a fascinating question because you're exactly right. And we are on the journey. As a leader, you really should have 4 topics of scrutiny and of expectations: access, adoption, proficiency, and ways of working. So access is, what are people using? Are they using things that the company has vetted and that are safe and that are within our governance framework and policy? Or are they using tools on the side because it helps them for their business or for their task, but that we haven't approved and they're using them on their personal laptops? Access. The second is adoption. So now that I gave them ChatGPT Enterprise, are they using it? And how often are they using it? Is it like once a month or is it like 20 times a day? Because that's not the same thing. They're not learning the same way and they're not getting the same value out of it. The third is proficiency. All right, they're using it 20 times a day, but how good are they at prompting? How good are they at coding a GPT or at writing instructions? It makes the world of a difference if you do or don't know how to write a good prompt in an AI model today.
Right? It's so true.
And then the fourth one is ways of working. So exactly as you expressed for the doctors, do you transcribe your meetings? Do you let the AI summarize it, but also coach you and also prepare for you the way that this meeting can get to the better outcome? Do you leverage deep research, which is a new feature of all the AI models, to go wide and broad into the opinion of the internet on a topic that you're looking into and get all of that expertise, even if it takes an hour of compute from the model to bring you back 50 different sources on here is the current state of the art in the topic that you're considering. Are you still using your existing knowledge or your intuition? So all these are new ways of working. And we are on the journey. They are not obvious. They are not things that most people who are at work today, they were students at a time when AI tools were not that sophisticated and that ready. And they're about to meet students with degrees that come out of schools where they learned with AI.
Right.
Today, AI is a mandatory tool and a mandatory topic at the Harvard MBA, right? In a course
Yeah.
that's called Data Science and AI for Leaders. You cannot graduate from the Harvard MBA without having had the tool to do your studies and the topic to study upon. How is that generation going to meet the world of organizations
Yeah.
if those organizations are like, no, we don't have AI here, we don't know if it's safe, we have not tried it? They're going to feel like someone who learned with a computer and arrives and it's a typewriter. That's how they're going to feel.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it still is so early. Like ChatGPT, I believe, was released in 2022. And so we just have so much still to like work through.
It's true. In a way, it's recent. And really, ChatGPT 3.5 or 4 were at the moment where we thought, oh, this is really great because ChatGPT 1 and 2, they were prototypes, but not so useful yet. In another way, I want to think of this differently. I think that generative AI is a conversation layer on top of all the work that has been done on AI these past 2 decades. So if you think of machine learning and neural networks, the kind of things that does weather prediction,
Hmm.
that does analysis of X-rays in radiology, that informs electricity consumption of factories, those have been there for a while, but they were really hard to code and hard to use. It required to have a degree to create one of them or to request information or guidance from one of them. And now we can just, in plain English, explain what we need or build instructions. And that comes on top of all the other layers because this is still on top of machine learning and neural networks. So for me, this is more an access revolution than
Hmm.
the technology revolution itself. Similar to the moment when we had a mouse and a graphic interface for computers.
Right.
And before this, I'm old enough that I remember that time you had to code lines of code in Unix or in DOS or whichever other language you were using. And suddenly you could click, drag, drop, type, and there you were in business with your laptop. It was extraordinary, really. The moment when you all had access as customers to this fantastic power of computing. And I think this is what's happening to AI. Not so much that AI is new, it's been there for a couple of decades now at a very good level, but it's suddenly accessible. And
Hmm.
that's a game changer.
I think that is a beautiful note to end on. We've wrapped our conversation in a great little bow there. And now we're going to do some rapid fire questions for you, Bryce. Are you ready to dive in?
I can't wait to.
These are quick questions with quick answers. So just say exactly what comes to your mind. Okay.
All right.
What is the most important part of your morning routine?
It's to exercise.
What do you do to relax at the end of a hectic day?
I play little stupid video games on my iPad.
Love it. What show are you currently streaming?
Yours, of course.
My show?
Yes.
That is the worst answer I've ever heard, but thank you so
All
much.
right. I'll give you another.
Okay.
I've just finished the last episode of Reacher.
Oh, people love that show. Okay, great. What's your idea of perfect happiness?
when I have my children in my arms and we
Oh,
are watching any show together.
that's nice. Hopefully, you don't make them watch my show. What is one mental health strategy for managing hard days?
Being here and now. Like if you think too much about the past, you start to be depressed. If you think too much of the future, you start to be anxious.
Yeah,
Here and now, there's a place of goodness. And the way that I most often do this when I don't have my children to hold is I take photographs. So I love photography because you really need to be here and now and capture a mini image of a moment. And that helps me.
I love that. Great. What's your favorite type of vacation?
It's changing because as a parent, you need to adapt your vacations to the growth of your children. My children are 11 and 13. For the first time, we did adventure vacations. We went to Costa Rica and we explored the wildlife and we did rafting. And this was an extraordinary time, but I couldn't have done it with them 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm adjusting to the evolution of my family and my little tribe here.
What is a good vacation for a 5 and 8-year-old? That's a personal question I'm asking.
Sure. That could be family vacations with the grandparents who want to have time with them, and the parents are exhausted, so they need also some free time. And it could be resort vacations, something more akin to, going to the beach and having daycare and being able to relax and spread your feet and read the news quietly. So we've been from relaxing to adventurous vacations this last 2, 3 years, and I enjoyed both equally, but I'm happy for the new chapter that's opening.
Nice. And if you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Thomas Edison, because
And
I have a fascination for he basically invented the inventor.
mhm.
There was no such figure before him. You could say that Da Vinci or Newton, they were great scientists and great makers, but Edison scaled the notion of the inventor, of someone who comes to the world with engineering skills and produces new products and technologies. I referred to the radio a moment ago as like, what is the radio of AI? Well, Edison did the radio to begin with, right? So he's one of my most inspiring figures in history.
And if you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
Surrounded by love and beauty.
Well, I love this. I hope we can do this again soon to talk about more of AI and transformation. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
Hey, thank you so much for all your great questions. I hope your listeners will enjoy this conversation, and I'm grateful for being a part of it.
Thank you, Brice. Everybody, you've been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like or subscribe and follow my social content on other platforms where I post content daily, including X, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and more.